The phone buzzed on the kitchen table while I was sorting seed packets for the spring planting. The light through the window was that particular shade of late winter gold, the kind that makes you believe in new beginnings even when you know better. I had my reading glasses on, the ones with the cracked frame I kept meaning to replace, and Skye was at the stove making something that smelled like home. Onions, butter, maybe some of that thyme she grows in the window box. The buzz came again, insistent. I wiped my hands on my jeans and picked up the phone. The message was from Kayla, my daughter, my only child. Don't come to my wedding. You're no longer my family. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. I read it 3 times. The words didn't change. The kitchen got very quiet. Even the sound of Skye's wooden spoon against the pot seemed to fade into nothing. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped wire around my ribs and was pulling it tighter with every breath. Callum? Skye's voice. What is it? I handed her the phone without saying anything, watched her face as she read, watched the color drain from her cheeks. She put one hand over her mouth, and the wooden spoon clattered into the sink. Call her, Skye said. There has to be some mistake. Call her right now. My fingers felt thick and clumsy as I pulled up Kayla's number. The phone rang, and rang, and rang, then voicemail. Her voice bright and fake cheerful. Hi, this is Kayla. Leave a message and I'll get back to you. I didn't leave a message. Try again, Skye said. I did. Same result. Then another text came through. This one from Aster Vereen, my daughter's fiancé, the man she was supposed to marry in 3 weeks at some coastal resort that probably cost more than our house. We need the guest list to reflect our future, not your past. I stared at that message for a long time. Our past. Like Skye and I were something to be ashamed of, something to be buried and forgotten. I remembered the last time I saw Aster in person. It was at their engagement dinner at the Varan estate, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers. He'd looked at my boots, clean but worn, and smiled this thin smile. Then he'd said, "So you work with dirt." The pause before dirt told me everything I needed to know about what he thought of me. Skye was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. "What did we do wrong?" she whispered. "What did we do to her?" I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I did, but it wasn't one she wanted to hear. We didn't do anything wrong. We just weren't rich. We weren't the right kind of people for the life Kayla had decided she wanted. I sat there in my kitchen, surrounded by seed packets and the smell of cooking and 40 years of memories in this house, and I felt something shift inside me, something cold and clear and sharp. I opened my contacts and scrolled past family names, past co-op numbers, past the vet and the feed store and the irrigation supply company. Down to Gerald Hunt. Gerald Hunt, Regional Environmental and Agricultural Compliance Officer, a man who owed me a favor, a big one. My thumb hovered over the call button. Skye was watching me. "Callum, what are you doing?" "Something I should have done a long time ago," I said. I tapped the screen. Gerald picked up on the second ring. "Callum, that you?" "Yeah, it's me," I said. My voice sounded strange, flat. "Gerald, remember when I helped you with that pesticide mess 5 years ago? When Harmon Agribusiness tried to bury you with it?" A pause. "Of course I remember. You saved my career, maybe my life." "Good," I said, "because I think it's time you returned the favor." The memories came back whether I wanted them or not. Kayla as a little girl, running through the fields with her hair flying behind her, asking me 1,000 questions about everything. Why is the soil dark here and light there? Where do worms go in winter? Can you teach me to drive the tractor? She used to follow me everywhere. Used to sit on the porch and watch me work, her little legs swinging, eating apple slices Skye cut for her. Used to tell anyone who would listen that her daddy knew everything about everything. Then middle school happened. Suddenly she was embarrassed when I showed up at school events in my work clothes. "Dad, can't you wear something nicer?" she'd hiss. "Everyone's staring." High school was worse. She stopped inviting us to things. When we did come, she'd stand as far away from us as possible, like our rural ordinariness might be contagious. Then college. A state school in the city, 2 hours away. Far enough that she didn't have to come home on weekends, far enough that she could reinvent herself. I saw it happening on social media. Skye would show me the photos, her voice worried. "Look at this one. Rooftop party. Who are all these people?" I looked. Kayla in a dress that probably cost what I made in a week. champagne glasses, city lights behind her, and in several photos, a tall, handsome man with perfect hair and an expensive watch. Aster Varen. No photos of the farm, no mentions of her family, nothing that connected her to the life she came from. The first time we met the Varens was at their mansion for an engagement dinner. Not an engagement party. Kayla was very specific about that. It's just a small dinner, family only. Please dress nice, please? We drove there in our truck, which suddenly felt very old and very loud on their smooth circular driveway. The house was enormous. White columns, marble steps, a fountain. Inside was worse. Everything gleamed. Everything was expensive and carefully arranged. Douglas Varen, Aster's father, was a tall man with silver hair and a handshake like a business transaction. Irene, his mother, was elegant in the way that comes from money and careful maintenance. She smiled at us, but her eyes were cold. "Mr. and Mrs. Torven," Douglas said. "How wonderful to finally meet you. Aster tells us you work with the land." "I'm an agronomist," I said. "Work with a local cooperative. Soil management, crop rotation, environmental compliance." "Ah," Douglas said, and I heard the dismissal in that single syllable. "So you work with dirt." He smiled when he said it. Aster smiled too. Even Irene's mouth twitched. Kayla laughed. Actually laughed, like it was a joke we were all in on. Skye's hand tightened on mine under the table. The dinner was excruciating. They talked about investments and vacation homes and people we'd never heard of. When they asked me questions, they did it with that careful politeness rich people use when they're talking to the help. "And how many acres do you manage, Mr. Torven?" "What's the cooperative's annual revenue?" "Do you travel much?" "Oh, of course not. The farm must keep you quite busy." Kayla sat between Aster and his mother, and I watched her mirror their mannerisms. The way they held their forks, the way they laughed. She was trying so hard to be one of them that she'd forgotten how to be herself. On the drive home, Skye cried. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just quiet tears that she tried to hide by looking out the window. "She's just young," I said, trying to convince myself as much as her. "She'll grow out of it. Once she's married and settled, she'll remember where she came from." Skye didn't answer. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up around 2 a.m. and went downstairs for water. Kayla's last voicemail to a friend was still playing in my head. I'd overheard it earlier when she'd stepped outside to take a call. I have to scrub the farm girl image off me if I'm ever going to be a real Varen. I mean, they're nice people, but they're so provincial, you know? Provincial. That's what we were to her now. I stood in my kitchen, the kitchen where I'd taught her to crack eggs, where she'd done homework at the table, where we'd celebrated every birthday and holiday, and I felt the first crack in my heart. But I told myself it would be okay. Love could survive this. Family could survive this. I was wrong. The strategy lunch happened 3 months before the wedding. Kayla called it a planning session. "The Varens want to go over some details. It would really help if you could be there. Not, I want you there. Just help." We arrived at the Varen estate at 2 sharp, punctual, presentable, ready to be supportive. The same uniformed woman led us through the vast entrance hall to the dining room. The table was covered with binders, fabric samples, architectural drawings of the venue, color swatches, elaborate flower photos, and seating charts full of unfamiliar names. A wedding planner, Tessa Long, stood nearby, all black clothing and a weaponized tablet. She smiled politely, not warmly. Douglas and Irene sat at the head of the table like royalty. Aster and Kayla flanked them. Skye and I were placed at the far end, out of the way, out of the decision-making. "Ah, Mr. and Mrs. Torven," Douglas said without standing. "We have a lot to cover, so let's begin." He pulled out a printed spreadsheet full of names and numbers. "The guest list is critical. Senator Whitmore and his wife, the Brimfield CEO, the Ashford family from Boston, the Hartleys, representatives from several major investment firms." Every name was someone powerful, connected, wealthy. Tessa swiped through photos. "The ceremony will be covered by 3 major lifestyle publications, plus influencers documenting the event. Optics must be flawless." "Optics," Irene repeated smoothly. "This wedding is a statement, a presentation of 2 families joining. Everything and everyone must be perceived correctly." She didn't look at us. She didn't need to. Aster leaned back casually. "We want everything perfect, not personal. Just a big moment for both families and the companies." Skye finally spoke. "What exactly are you saying?" Douglas chose his words carefully. "The wedding party and prominent guests need to reflect a certain image, people comfortable in high society settings, people who won't be overwhelmed." "You want us in the back," I said. We want you to understand the nature of the event, Irene corrected sharply. Photographers, journalists, influential guests. First impressions matter. And we make the wrong one. We're not saying that, Aster said quickly. Just that maybe it's easier if we keep things simple. You'll still be there, of course, just not in the receiving line or formal photos or head table. Kayla stared at her hands, the massive diamond ring gleaming. She said nothing. I waited for her to defend us. She didn't. Kayla? Skye asked softly. Honey, what do you think? Kayla looked up, eyes red but dry. I think they have a point about optics. It's a high-profile event. I just want it to go smoothly, without any complications. Complications, I repeated. That's what we are now. The meeting dragged on another hour. Timelines, reception schedules, staged moments to be photographed and judged by their world, every detail dissected. Douglas mentioned business associates attending. Excellent networking opportunity, he said. Several investors are already discussing expansion. Speaking of operations, Aster added, the new pipeline expansion should be fully operational by fall, tripling capacity. He said it casually, but looked directly at me. That pipeline crossed land we'd leased to them. Land I'd been documenting for months as their violations accumulated. Later, retrieving Skye's jacket from the coat room, I heard voices nearby. Aster and Kayla, unaware I stood just out of sight. I'm marrying you, Aster said, voice low and hard. But I didn't sign up to marry into a county fair. My parents are right. This is a high-profile event. We need people who understand that world. They're my parents, Kayla whispered, already defeated. And they're fine. But from our perspective, we have standards. Your parents aren't equipped for this level of society. They don't fit. So what do you want me to do? I want you to handle it, Aster said firmly. Make them understand this isn't about them. It's about us, about joining two families that operate on the same level, not families from completely different worlds. A long pause. I could almost hear her breaking. I'll handle it, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I promise. I'll handle them. Handle us. Handle them. Like we were a problem to be managed, an obstacle to be removed, a stain to be scrubbed away before the important guests arrived. I grabbed the jacket and walked away, my chest tight with something that felt like rage and grief mixed together in equal measure. On the drive home, Skye was quiet for a long time. The countryside rolled past, familiar fields and farms, our world. Then she spoke. Did you hear them? In the hallway? Yeah. What are we going to do? I don't know yet, I said, gripping the steering wheel tighter, but I was starting to get an idea. A cold, clear idea that grew sharper with each mile we drove. Weeks later, sitting in my kitchen with Kayla's text glowing on my phone. Don't come to my wedding. You're no longer my family. I finally understood what I'll handle it had meant. She'd handled it by erasing us. I went to my office, really just a corner of the spare room, and opened the drawer labeled Property and Contracts. Inside were land deeds, old lease agreements, environmental documents, county-stamped forms, and maps of every parcel we owned. And there, highlighted from a late-night review months ago, were the contracts with Varon Petrochem, Aster's family company. The business wealthy enough to look down on people like us. They leased our access roads, stored chemicals on cooperative property, ran heavy trucks across routes we approved, operated a pipeline crossing 3 parcels, 2 mine, 1 Skye's. When those contracts were first proposed, their lawyers had presented them with polite arrogance, assuming I wouldn't understand the fine print. But I'd read every clause, slowly, carefully, and I'd noticed all the environmental compliance rules, weight limits, soil restoration requirements, and immediate termination conditions. I'd even had Nina Caro from the co-op look them over. These are strict, she'd said. If they violate anything, you can cancel immediately. Good to know, I'd replied. Now I spread a county map across my desk and circled key locations in red. Access roads, storage sites, the pipeline route, the new expansion Aster bragged about, partly built on land they leased from us. Every red circle was a pressure point, places their empire rested on our cooperation and our silence. And I had months of violations documented in spiral notebooks. Skye appeared in the doorway, face pale from crying. What are you doing? Something cold and sharp settled inside me. Years of patience hardened into clarity. If I'm no longer family, I said quietly, then they're no longer guests, they're tenants, and their lease is up. Her eyes widened. Callum, you're talking about going after Aster's company, his family's business. Oh, I'm talking about enforcing contracts they signed. Nothing illegal, Nothing unethical, just accountability. They'll fight back. They have lawyers, money, political pull. They do, I agreed. But I have something they don't. What? The land under their operation, and proof of every violation. I opened a spiral notebook. Pages of dated entries, taped photos, soil sample results, truck weight records from county scales. I've been watching, I said. Every time they stored chemicals too close to the creek, every overweight truck, every ignored soil restoration requirement. I documented all of it. Skye stared at the notebook like it was dangerous. If you knew they were violating the agreements, why didn't you act sooner? Because she's my daughter, I said, voice cracking. I kept hoping she'd remember who she was, who we were, that once she felt secure with them, she'd come back to us. I didn't want to do anything that might hurt her future. I kept thinking if I was patient, if I showed love, she'd see it. But now she's made it clear. We're not her family anymore. We're just embarrassments she needs to erase, problems she needs to handle. I picked up the phone and pulled up Gerald Hunt's number. My thumb hovered over the call button. If you do this, Skye said quietly, watching me, there's no going back. You'll be destroying your relationship with her, maybe forever. I thought about that text message. Don't come to my wedding. You're no longer my family. I thought about Kayla laughing when Douglas called my life's work playing in dirt. I thought about her voice on the phone that night. I have to scrub the farm girl image off me. I thought about Astor's words in the hallway. I didn't sign up for marrying into a county fair. I thought about being called a complication, an unpredictable variable, someone not equipped for their level of society. She destroyed it first, I said, and I pressed call. Gerald's office was in a dull county building, gray walls, humming fluorescent lights, worn linoleum, nothing like the polished Varon estate. But this was where real power lived, the authority to stop projects, issue fines, shut down operations, power rooted in law, not wealth. I spread the contracts on Gerald's desk. He read them slowly, his expression tightening as he flipped pages, cross-referencing rules in a regulatory handbook. They're storing chemicals within 50 yards of a tributary, I said, tapping a map. That violates State Code 401.3. They've been running 40-ton trucks on roads zoned for 15, direct violation of their easement, paragraph 7, and they've ignored soil restoration clauses at 3 sites. Gerald looked up. You documented all this? For months. I laid out my notebooks. Quarterly soil samples, photos with timestamps and GPS, road damage logs, truck weight receipts, correspondence where they acknowledged issues but never fixed them. Gerald flipped through a notebook, jaw tightening. This is professional-grade documentation. I'm an agronomist, and it's my land. Why didn't you report earlier? He asked. Some violations go back half a year. I met his eyes. Because she's my daughter, Kayla. She was supposed to marry Astor in 3 weeks. I kept hoping she'd find her way back to us. I didn't want to be the father who wrecked her standing with his family. He sat back heavily. Callum, the Varons are powerful. Lawyers, political connections. If I open an investigation, they'll come after me and you. You owe me, I said quietly. When Harmon Agribusiness tried to pin that pesticide scandal on you, my samples and timelines proved their illegal dumping. My testimony kept you from losing your job, and maybe your life, the way you were drinking then. Gerald looked down. I remember. I never asked for anything. I did it because it was right. I'm asking now because they're breaking the law. He studied the evidence for a long moment, then nodded. What do you want? An inspection. By the book. State-certified soil tests, drone surveys, compliance record requests. Everything legal and admissible. When? Now. They're violating terms today. He checked his calendar. If I file today, fieldwork starts next week. Preliminary results in 10 days. The full report. He met my eyes. It could land right before the wedding. Good, I said. They should remember the exact day the ground shifted under them. From Gerald's office, I drove to the cooperative headquarters. Nina Caro, our co-op's lawyer, waited in the conference room. Sharp eyes, short steel-gray hair, zero patience for corporate arrogance. She read the contracts even more carefully than Gerald, marking pages, cross-checking clauses. After 20 minutes, she began smiling, a predatory smile. They thought you were stupid, she said, that you wouldn't read the fine print. I figured as much, but you did, and you documented every violation. She pointed to a clause. Section 12, paragraph 4. If environmental violations are confirmed by the state, the lease can be terminated with 30 days' notice. No arbitration. She flipped to another. Section 8, paragraph 2. Failure to maintain roads suspends all access rights until full remediation. Every inch repaired before they can use the roads again. Can we actually do this? I asked. Legally and quickly? Legally. She raised an eyebrow. Absolutely. Their lawyers got lazy. They assumed you wouldn't enforce the terms. They were wrong. She closed the folder. The real question is whether you want to. Because once we start, file notices, terminate easements, there's no going back. You'll be at war with one of the richest families in the state. And Callum? Her expression softened but stayed serious. You may destroy your relationship with your daughter. Permanently. I thought about that text message. Don't come to my wedding. You're no longer my family. I thought about Kayla saying, I'll handle them, like we were problems instead of parents. I thought about being called complications and unpredictable variables. She destroyed it first, I said. I'm just making it official. Nina nodded once, decisively. Then let's get started. Over the next week, things moved fast. Faster than I'd expected. The machinery of bureaucracy and law, once set in motion with proper documentation and legitimate cause, could be surprisingly efficient. Gerald's office issued a formal inspection notice to Varen Petrochem on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, teams were showing up with soil testing equipment and drones. By Tuesday, they'd documented chemical storage tanks positioned too close to water sources, photographed road damage from overweight trucks with tire marks and measurement evidence, and found abandoned drilling equipment on land that was supposed to be restored to agricultural use. By Wednesday, preliminary findings were being typed up in official reports with county seals. Meanwhile, Nina had been busy. She prepared a comprehensive package of paperwork for the co-op board, notices of violation with photographic evidence, suspension of easements pending compliance review, termination notices for the most serious breaches citing specific contract clauses, letters to be sent via certified mail, return receipt requested, creating an unimpeachable paper trail. The co-op board met Thursday evening. They reviewed everything. They voted unanimously to proceed. By Friday morning, the notices were in the mail. I kept working the farm through all of it, checking irrigation lines that needed maintenance before spring planting, walking fence lines, testing soil in the fields that hadn't been touched by Varen operations, planning crop rotation, acting like nothing unusual was happening. But my phone kept buzzing. Calls from unknown numbers, lawyers probably, calls from Varen Petrochem's corporate office, even a few calls from numbers I didn't recognize that might have been reporters who'd somehow heard about the inspections. I didn't answer any of them, just watched the missed call counter climb like a scoreboard, 10, 20, 30. Then, one evening while I was washing up after dinner, Kayla called. I stared at her name on the screen for 3 full rings, my hands still wet with soap and water, before I answered. What did you do? She didn't even wait for me to say hello. Her voice came through the speaker raw and furious, almost unrecognizable. What the hell did you do to Astor's company? There are inspectors everywhere. They're talking about shutting down operations. The wedding is in 2 weeks, and you're deliberately ruining everything. How could you do this to me? I didn't do anything, I said calmly, drying my hands on a dish towel. I just stopped letting them break environmental laws on my land. Don't play innocent. You're sabotaging my future because you're jealous. You can't stand that I'm marrying someone successful, someone important, someone who actually made something of himself instead of just playing in dirt his whole life. The words hit like a physical blow. Playing in dirt. She'd absorbed their contempt completely, made it her own. Is that what you think? I asked quietly. I know it, and I'll never forgive you if you ruin my wedding. Do you understand that? Never. You'll lose me forever. I should have felt something. Sadness, regret. The desperate urge to take it all back, to call Gerald and Nina and tell them to stop everything. But all I felt was cold clarity. Crystal clear understanding that the daughter I'd known, the one who used to hold earthworms and call them little farmers, was already gone. This person screaming at me was someone else entirely. You wrote that I'm no longer your family, I said, my voice steady. I'm just honoring that. I'm treating you the way you asked to be treated. Like we're not related. Like there's no connection between us. That's exactly what you meant, I interrupted. And now you're getting exactly what you asked for. I hung up. Skye was watching me from the kitchen doorway, her face pale. She's still our daughter, she said quietly, more question than statement. No, I said, setting the phone down with deliberate care. She was our daughter, past tense. Now she's just someone who wants what we have, our land, our resources, our cooperation, without wanting us, without respecting us, without even acknowledging we exist except as obstacles or embarrassments. That night, around 11 when I was getting ready for bed, I got a text from Astor himself. Not Kayla, Astor. If you show up at the venue, security will throw you out. You are not part of this story. I read it 3 times. Each time the words became clearer, more honest than anything else the Varins had said to me. At least this was direct, unvarnished. True. I set the phone down on the nightstand and smiled without humor. He was right about one thing. I wasn't background. I wasn't just set dressing in their perfect wedding story. I was the plot twist they never saw coming. 2 days before the wedding, headlights turned up our driveway after dark. I was in the barn, checking on a piece of equipment, when I heard the crunch of expensive tires on gravel. A black luxury sedan, not Astor's usual car. This one looked rented, anonymous. Astor stepped out, flanked by 2 men I didn't recognize, city types in expensive casual wear. They smelled of cologne and whiskey even from 20 feet away. "Mr. Torven," Astor said. His voice had that forced calm of someone trying very hard not to lose his temper. "We need to talk." I set down my wrench and walked out into the yard. The security light clicked on, flooding everything in harsh white. "Little late for a social call," I said. "Cut it out," Astor snapped. "You know why I'm here. This inspection, these violations, this whole mess, you orchestrated it. I documented violations of environmental law and easement agreements. If that's a mess, your company made it." One of his friends stepped forward. "Listen, old man." "Careful," I said quietly. Astor held up a hand. "We're prepared to make this worth your while. Sign a statement saying the violations were misunderstandings. Tell the agency you were mistaken. We'll compensate you generously." "How much?" His eyes lit up. He thought he had me. $50,000. Cash. "No." 100,000. "No." "What do you want then? What's your price?" "You don't have enough money," I said. Astor's face darkened. "You're willing to hurt your own daughter to protect your peasant pride? Is that it?" "I'm not hurting her. You are. You're the one who made her choose between her family and your world. You're the one who wanted us erased." "Because you're embarrassing," Astor shouted. "You show up in work clothes and muddy boots and you talk about soil and crops like anyone cares. You don't fit. You never will." "Then we agree on something," I said. He moved fast, grabbed my jacket and shoved me back against the side of the old tractor. His breath was hot on my face, stinking of expensive scotch. "You're nothing without our refinery. This whole town eats because we allow it to." I shifted my weight just right. Astor's feet slipped in the mud. He went down hard, landing on his backside in the muck. His white shirt was instantly brown. One of his friends lunged forward, then light exploded across the yard. Skye stood on the porch with our biggest spotlight, the kind we use for night work in the fields. She had it aimed right at them like a prison searchlight. "That's enough," she called out. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the fear underneath. Across the road, our neighbor Marty was standing in his yard with his phone up, clearly recording. Astor struggled to his feet, covered in mud now, his perfect image ruined. His face was twisted with rage. "You think she's going to choose you over me?" he snarled. "Wait and see." "I'm counting on exactly that," I said. They left, tires spinning in the gravel, mud flying. When the taillights disappeared, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Skye came down from the porch. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," I said, "but we just crossed a line. There's no going back now." "Good," she said, and her voice was hard. They crossed it first. The next morning, I met with Nina Caro again. This time, Skye came with me. Nina had her serious face on, the one that meant she'd found something important. She laid out a property survey on the conference table. "I went back through the land records," she said. "Something interesting came up. Skye, do you remember when you sold your family farm shares about 20 years ago?" Skye nodded. "We needed the money. Times were hard." "Right. But here's what I found. Callum bought back several parcels over the following years. And he registered them under your name, Skye." Skye looked at me, surprised. "You did?" I shrugged. "Seemed like the right thing to do. It was your family's land. I wanted you to have it back." Nina smiled. "Well, that right thing just became our biggest weapon. Varin Petrochem leased several key easements, assuming all the Torven land was under Callum's name. But legally, Skye owns critical pieces, including," she tapped the map, "the primary access road for their truck routes, the underground pipeline passage to their secondary storage facility, and most importantly, the land for their new expansion project." "What does that mean?" Skye asked. "It means you can co-sign the withdrawal of easements, and without those easements, their operations grind to a halt." Skye went pale. "If we pull this, their business will crash. Kayla will blame us for destroying her life. She already blamed us for existing, I said. This just makes it official. Nina pushed forward a stack of documents. These are notices of easement termination, perfectly legal, based on environmental violations and contract breaches. They're required to respond or renegotiate by a specific date. When? I asked. Nina looked at the calendar. The morning of the wedding. Skye stared at the papers for a long time. Her hands were shaking. If we sign these, we take back what's ours, I said, and we show them that they built their empire on land they never respected. She picked up a pen, hesitated, then signed her name. I signed next to her. Nina gathered the papers and smiled grimly. These will be filed this afternoon, served tomorrow, and the deadline for response? She checked her watch. We'll hit at 8 a.m. on Saturday, 2 hours before the ceremony. Over the next 2 days, I watched the chaos unfold like a slow-motion avalanche. Trucks stopped at roadblocks, easements suspended, environmental inspectors swarming the Vorin facilities, workers told to stand down. I heard through the co-op grapevine that executives were calling emergency meetings at odd hours, that lawyers were scrambling, that the expansion project had been put on hold pending legal review. My phone rang constantly. I didn't answer, just watched the number climb. 50 missed calls, 60, 70. Then, late Thursday night, my phone buzzed with a new text from Aster. If you show up at the venue, security will throw you out. You are not part of this story. I read it twice. Then I texted back for the first time. See you Saturday. Skye came into the bedroom as I was setting the phone down. Are you really going? Yes. As what? Her father? I thought about that. No, I'm going as the man she decided I wasn't. She nodded slowly. Then she went to the closet and pulled out my good suit, the one I wore to weddings and funerals. She laid it out on the bed. Then I'm coming with you, she said. Friday morning, Tessa Long called, the wedding planner. I actually answered, mostly because her number wasn't one I'd seen before. Mr. Torven? Her voice was stressed, frantic. I don't know what's going on, but everything is falling apart here. The Varens are in crisis mode. Kayla is barely holding it together. And now I'm hearing you might show up anyway? I'll be there, I said. Sir, I'm begging you. If you come and cause a scene, this whole thing will explode. Reporters are already sniffing around because of the environmental story. I'm not going to cause a scene, I said. I'm just going to be there. They'll have you removed. Maybe, or maybe they'll realize they need to talk to me. She was quiet for a moment. What do you want? To see my daughter on her wedding day. But you're not going to stop it. I don't have to, I said. I just have to let her see what she's really choosing. I hung up. The missed calls hit 83 by Friday night. I didn't answer a single one. Saturday morning dawned clear and cold. I did my usual rounds, checked the irrigation, walked the near fields, made sure everything was in order. The work was calming, real, honest. My phone sat on the kitchen windowsill, lighting up every few minutes. 87 missed calls now, text messages piling up, voicemails I'd never listened to. Skye came downstairs, dressed in her best outfit, a simple navy dress and the pearl necklace I'd given her on our 20th anniversary. She looked beautiful and strong and a little terrified. Ready? She asked. Not even a little bit, I said. But let's go anyway. The drive took 2 hours. We didn't talk much. Just listened to the radio and watched the landscape change from fields to suburbs to coastline. The resort was everything I expected. White stone buildings, manicured lawns, a view of the ocean that probably cost extra. Luxury vehicles filled the parking lot, sedans and SUVs that cost more than my annual income. Our truck looked ridiculous among them. Old, rattling, paint faded. But I parked it right in front, between a Mercedes and a Tesla. The main entrance had a red carpet running up the steps. Security guards in suits stood on either side, checking a guest list. We walked up. The guard on the left looked at his tablet, then at us. Names? Callum and Skye Torven, I said. He scrolled, frowned. I don't see you on the list. Check the family section. More scrolling. Then he looked up, his expression carefully neutral. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Is there a problem here? Aster appeared at the top of the steps, looking pale but composed. He was in full wedding attire, tuxedo, boutonniere, perfectly styled hair, but his eyes were red and his jaw was clenched. These people aren't on the guest list, the guard said. They're not supposed to be here, Aster said to the guard. Then to me. Mr. Torven, you already know you're not invited. Please leave before we have to make this official. A small crowd had gathered. Guests in expensive clothes watching the drama. I recognized some faces from the engagement dinner. Others I'd seen in photos on Kayla's social media. "I'd like to speak with my daughter," I said calmly. "She doesn't want to speak with you." "Let her tell me that." Aster's face flushed. "You destroyed my family's business this week. You deliberately sabotaged us right before my wedding. And you think you have the right to be here?" "I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped letting you use my land to break environmental laws." A man in a suit nearby pulled out his phone, started recording or maybe texting. Whispers spread through the crowd. Then Tessa Long appeared, looking harried and desperate. "Please," she said to Aster, "if you throw him out now, with all these people watching, it's going to be everywhere. Let them talk inside. Quietly, 5 minutes." Aster looked like he wanted to refuse, but Douglas Varon had appeared behind him, and I saw the older man's subtle nod. Better to contain this than let it explode publicly. "Fine," Aster said. 5 minutes. In the side pavilion. Then you leave." We followed them through the resort. Guests stared, whispered. I heard fragments. "That's the father. The one who caused all the trouble. Can't believe he actually showed up." Skye's hand was tight in mine. The side pavilion was a glass-enclosed room with a view of the ocean. Beautiful and cold. They'd set up a small meeting space here, probably for vendor check-ins or last-minute planning. Kayla was waiting inside. She wore her wedding dress. White, elaborate, expensive. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes were red. She'd been crying. When she saw us, her face twisted with anger and something else. Something that looked like fear. "How dare you come here?" she hissed. "After everything you did. How dare you?" "I came to see you on your wedding day," I said. "You destroyed it. You destroyed everything." Douglas and Irene had followed us in. They stood behind Kayla like guards. Douglas looked furious but controlled. Irene's face was ice. "Mr. Torven," Douglas said, "you've made your point. You've disrupted our operations, cost us millions, and created a public relations nightmare. Congratulations, you've had your revenge. Now leave our family alone." "Revenge?" I said. "I just enforced the contracts you signed. If that caused problems, maybe you shouldn't have violated them." "Don't play innocent," Irene said coldly. "You waited until now, deliberately. You wanted to hurt us, to hurt Kayla." "I wanted her to see what she was really choosing." Kayla stepped forward. "What does that mean?" I pulled out a folder from my jacket, laid it on the table. "This is the environmental report from Gerald Hunt's office. Soil contamination, illegal chemical storage, road damage. All documented. All on land your fiancé's company leased from us." I pulled out another document. "This is the notice of easement termination, legal and binding, because they violated the terms." A third document. "And this is an email from you, Kayla, from 8 months ago. You asked me to sign a simple adjustment form to help with Aster's project. Do you remember?" Her face went white. "That form would have weakened environmental protections on one of my fields. You told me it was standard paperwork, that I was overthinking it, that it would help Aster. I'd never shown this to anyone, but I'd kept it, and I'd never signed that form." "The regulators flagged that form as suspicious during their review," I continued. "It was part of what triggered the deeper investigation. You tried to manipulate me into helping his company break the law." Aster turned to Kayla. "What is he talking about?" It wasn't like that," she stammered. "It was just to simplify things. Everyone said it was fine." "Everyone who worked for my company," Aster said quietly. His voice had changed, gone cold. Douglas stepped forward, his face hard. "Is this true, Kayla? Did you try to manipulate legal documents?" "I was trying to help," Kayla's voice cracked. "I was trying to be useful, to fit in. You all kept saying how much easier things would be if my family would just cooperate." "And now," I said, "you see what that cooperation would have cost? My land, my reputation, maybe criminal charges if that form had gone through." The room was silent except for the sound of waves outside. Irene spoke, her voice sharp. "This is the woman bringing scandal to our door, her and her embarrassing family." "No," I said. "This is the woman who was willing to do anything, compromise anything, to join your family. Because you made her feel like who she really wasn't good enough." I turned to Kayla. "You told me I wasn't your family anymore. You cut us out because we embarrassed you, because we weren't rich enough or polished enough. And I watched you turn yourself into someone I barely recognized just to fit into their world." Tears ran down her face, ruining her makeup. "The thing is," I continued, "I would have forgiven all of it. The disrespect, the shame, the rejection, because you're my daughter and I love you. But then you tried to use me, to manipulate me into helping them while pretending it was just paperwork. I'm sorry, she whispered. It's too late for sorry, I said. Douglas and Irene were whispering urgently with Aster now. I caught fragments. Liability. Investors asking questions. Can't afford the association. Aster looked at Kayla, then at his parents, then back at Kayla. Something changed in his expression. I need to speak with my parents, he said. Alone. They stepped outside. Through the glass, I could see them having an intense conversation. Douglas was gesturing sharply. Irene's face was set and hard. Aster kept shaking his head, then nodding, then shaking his head again. Kayla watched them, her face pale. What are they saying? I didn't answer, but I knew. I'd seen this coming. They came back in. Aster's face was composed now. Decision made. Kayla, he said, we need to talk. The ceremony was supposed to start in 30 minutes. Through the windows of the pavilion, I could see guests gathering in the main area, women in elegant dresses, men in expensive suits. The quartet was tuning up. White chairs arranged in perfect rows facing an altar decorated with thousands of dollars worth of flowers. Everything ready. Everything perfect. Except the groom was in here, looking at his bride-to-be with an expression I recognized. The expression of a man calculating costs and benefits. The expression of someone deciding that love, if it ever existed, wasn't worth the price. Kayla, Aster said again. His voice was gentle, but there was steel underneath. My parents and I have discussed the situation. Given the circumstances, given everything that's happened this week and what's come to light today, I think we need to postpone the wedding. Postpone? Kayla's voice was very small. Perhaps indefinitely, Douglas added. He didn't sound apologetic. He sounded like a CEO closing a bad deal. The company is in crisis. The environmental investigations, the negative publicity, the suspended operations. We need to focus on that right now. A wedding under these circumstances would send the wrong message. Besides, Irene said coldly, we need to consider whether this union is truly in everyone's best interest. There are clearly complications we didn't anticipate. Kayla looked at me, then at them. Understanding was dawning on her face, slow and terrible. Complications? She repeated. You mean my family? You mean me? You manipulated legal documents, Aster said. Even if you meant well, that shows incredibly poor judgment. And your father? My father enforced his legal rights, Kayla said. Her voice was getting stronger, angrier. You were breaking the law on his land, and he stopped you. That's not his fault. That's yours. Watch your tone, Douglas warned. Or what? You'll uninvite me to my own wedding? She laughed, but it was a broken sound. Oh, wait, you're already doing that. Aster reached for her hand. She yanked it away. Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me. She turned to his parents. You never wanted me, did you? You wanted the land access. You wanted the cooperative connections. You wanted what my family had without respecting who we were. That's not true, Aster said, but it sounded hollow. Then tell them no, Kayla said. Tell them we're getting married anyway, that you love me, that I'm worth more than your company's reputation. Silence. The quartet started playing outside, soft music drifting through the walls. Aster opened his mouth, closed it, looked at his parents. That's when I knew for certain. He was going to do it. He was going to dump her right here, right now, in front of everyone. And part of me, the part that still loved her, that still remembered her as a little girl, wanted to stop this. Wanted to grab Skye's hand and leave and let them sort it out. But the other part of me, the part that had been disrespected and erased and told I wasn't good enough, that part wanted her to see this through to the end. Douglas checked his watch. The guests are waiting. We need to make a decision. I have made a decision, Aster said. He stepped away from Kayla. I'm sorry. I can't do this right now. Right now? Kayla's voice rose. What about later? What about next month? What about... I don't know, Aster said. And for the first time, he looked genuinely uncomfortable, maybe even guilty. I need time to think. You need time to think on our wedding day, with 200 people outside waiting? Given what your father did. Stop blaming my father, Kayla screamed. This isn't about him. This is about you being too weak to stand up to your parents, too concerned with money and reputation to actually care about me. Kayla, I changed everything for you. I cut off my family. I dressed differently, talked differently, became a different person, and you're dumping me anyway. Irene stepped forward. Lower your voice. People can hear you. Good. Let them hear. Kayla was crying now, full sobs that shook her whole body. Let them all hear that I ruined my life for a man who was only marrying me for land access. That's not fair, Aster said, isn't it? Prove me wrong. Go out there right now and marry me. Show everyone that I matter more than your company. Another long silence. Aster looked at the floor. Kayla turned to me. Her face was destroyed, makeup running, eyes wild, expression completely broken. Dad, she whispered, please, help me fix this. And there it was. The moment I'd been half dreading, half hoping for. I looked at my daughter in her expensive wedding dress, begging me to save her from a situation she'd created by trying to erase me. You told me I was no longer your family, I said quietly. You chose them because you thought they were better than us, more important, more valuable. Now you see how quickly they throw you away when you stop being useful. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. But you're not sorry you hurt me, I said. You're sorry you got hurt. There's a difference. I reached into my jacket and pulled out an envelope. It was thick, expensive paper. Inside were legal documents transferring a portion of my land to her, a wedding gift I'd been planning to give her before everything fell apart. I held it up so everyone could see, then I tore it slowly in half, then in half again. The pieces drifted to the floor like snow. That was your inheritance, I said. Your connection to the land you were so ashamed of. Now you have neither the land nor the people who came with it. Kayla dropped to her knees, grabbing at the torn pieces. No, no, no. Aster was already backing toward the door. His parents followed. Wait, Kayla called after them. Please, we can fix this. We can work it out. I'll make my father drop the complaints. But they were gone. I turned to Skye, offered her my arm. As we walked toward the door, Kayla grabbed my sleeve. Please don't leave me here. Please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I gently pulled my sleeve free. You wanted a family that would love you only when you belonged to them. You had one that loved you when you were still covered in mud. You burned that field yourself. We walked out. The main ceremony area was chaos, barely contained. 200 guests murmuring, whispering, phones out. The quartet had stopped playing. Tessa Long was having a heated conversation with Douglas Varon near the altar. When we emerged from the pavilion, everyone turned to look. Skye and I walked down the center aisle, not fast, not running, just walking with our heads up. I heard the whispers clearly now. That's the father who caused all this. Destroyed their business out of spite. Farm people, what did they expect? And then other voices. Environmental violations, though. The company was breaking the law. Heard they tried to bribe him? We reached the exit, pushed through the doors into the bright morning sunlight. Behind us, I heard raised voices. Kayla had emerged from the pavilion, still in her wedding dress, mascara running down her face. Guests gasped and pointed. Then Aster appeared. Not beside her, in front of her, facing the crowd. He raised his hands for silence. Everyone, he said, his voice carrying across the space. I apologize, but we need to make an announcement. Due to some information that has recently come to light regarding family matters and business complications, Kayla and I have decided to postpone today's ceremony. Postpone? Someone called out. You're canceling at the altar? It's a difficult situation, Aster continued. We appreciate your understanding and... You're leaving me? Kayla's voice cut across his. She'd walked up beside him, her dress dragging on the ground. Just like that, you're ending this. He turned to her, and I saw his face. Guilt, relief, calculation. I'm sorry, he said. I can't do this right now. Not with everything going on. Because of my father? Because of the business? Because of everything. Because I need to think about what's best for my family's company, our investors, our future. What about our future? She was screaming now, completely past caring who heard. What about me? Douglas stepped up beside his son. Kayla, this is inappropriate. Please compose yourself. Compose myself? You're destroying my life and you want me to compose myself? From the crowd, someone laughed. Not loud, but I heard it. A nasty little snicker. Then another voice. I told everyone the farm girl was trouble. More whispers. More laughs. Quiet, but cruel. Kayla heard them too. I watched her face change as she realized what was happening. She wasn't just losing a fiancé. She was becoming entertainment for the same social circle she'd worked so hard to impress. Irene stepped forward and touched Aster's arm. We should go inside. Handle this privately. They started to move away, all three of them, leaving Kayla standing alone in her wedding dress in front of 200 people who were now openly talking, laughing, recording on their phones. She turned in a circle, looking at all of them, looking for one friendly face, one person who might help her. No one moved. She found me in the crowd, standing at the back with Skye. Our eyes met. I saw the moment she fully understood. She'd traded the people who loved her unconditionally for people who loved her conditionally. And when the conditions changed, the love disappeared. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A call from Kayla. I looked at the screen. At the number. At the missed call counter, 89. I pressed the side button. Call rejected. Then I held Skye's hand and turned toward the parking lot. Behind us, the whispers turned into conversations. The conversations turned into laughter. The laughter would turn into stories that would spread through their social network, defining Kayla as the girl who tried to marry up and failed spectacularly. We reached the truck. The same old truck that had embarrassed her so many times. The truck that was honest and real and exactly what it appeared to be. I opened Skye's door for her. She climbed in, and I saw tears on her face. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "Are you?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." I walked around to the driver's side. Before I got in, I looked back at the resort one more time. The perfect venue. The perfect decorations. The perfect guests in their perfect clothes. All of it built on a foundation of contempt for people like me. People who worked with dirt and crops and real things. People who weren't polished or wealthy or connected. Kayla had wanted so badly to be one of them. And now she'd learned that no matter how much you change yourself, they'll never really accept you if you don't come from their world. I'd learned something too. That being underestimated is a weapon. That patience pays off. That contracts and laws and careful documentation matter more than social status. And that sometimes the best revenge is just letting people reap exactly what they planted. I climbed into the truck. Started the engine. It rattled and coughed like always. Behind us, in the resort, my daughter was having the worst day of her life. And I felt no guilt, no regret, no urge to turn back and save her. She'd made her choices. Now she had to live with them. We drove away from the resort slowly. No dramatic exit, no screeching tires. Just two people heading home after watching their daughter's life fall apart. The coast road was beautiful in the morning light. Ocean on one side, green hills on the other. Tourist towns with their shops and restaurants. People living their lives, completely unaware of the small tragedy that had just unfolded up the road. Skye was quiet for a long time. Then, what happens now? Now? I thought about it. Now we go home. I've got fields to prepare. Spring planting in a few weeks. I mean with Kayla. I don't know, I said honestly. That's up to her. She'll call. Probably. Will you answer? I didn't respond right away. Watched the road unfold in front of us. Maybe, I said finally. When I'm ready. If she's really changed and not just scared. But it won't be the same. It can't be. Skye nodded. No, it can't. We stopped for coffee at a little roadside place. The kind with plastic tables and decent pie. Regular people eating breakfast, reading newspapers, talking about ordinary things. My phone buzzed again. I glanced at it. Another call from Kayla. I set it face down on the table. The waitress came over, a woman about Skye's age with tired eyes and a friendly smile. What can I get you folks? 2 coffees, I said, and 2 pieces of whatever pie you recommend. Apple's good today. Made it fresh this morning. Perfect. She poured our coffee and left. Skye added cream to hers, stirring slowly. Do you think we did the right thing? She asked. Yes, I said without hesitation. They needed to learn they couldn't just use people and throw them away, and Kayla needed to understand that trying to erase where you come from doesn't make you better. It just makes you lost. She looked so broken. She was broken before today. She just didn't know it yet. The pie came. It was good. Real apples, real crust, none of that processed nonsense. The kind of simple, honest food that fed you without pretending to be something it wasn't. My phone lit up again. Text message. I didn't look at it. Skye reached across and took my hand. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Yeah? You stood up for us. For yourself. You didn't let them make you feel small. I felt small for a long time, I admitted. Every time she looked at me with that disappointment. Every time she made excuses for why we couldn't come to things. Every time she laughed at their jokes about farmers and rural people. But you're not small. No, I agreed. I'm not. We finished our pie, paid the check, got back in the truck. The rest of the drive passed in comfortable silence. Through the towns, onto the county roads, finally onto the gravel drive that led to our house, home, the farmhouse with its peeling paint and creaky floors, the barn that needed repairs, the fields stretching out in every direction, waiting for spring. It looked beautiful. I parked the truck and we sat there for a moment, not moving. "You know what I realized?" I said. "What?" "For the first time in years, I don't feel ashamed of any of this. The house, the farm, the life we built. I spent so long seeing it through Kayla's eyes, seeing all the ways it wasn't good enough. But it is good enough. It's honest work. It's real." Skye smiled. "It always was." We got out, walked up to the house together. Inside, everything was exactly as we'd left it. The kitchen table with seed packets still spread out, the coffee pot waiting to be washed, the worn couch, the photos on the wall, Kayla as a baby, as a child, smiling and happy before she learned to be ashamed. My phone buzzed again. I pulled it out. 94 missed calls now, 7 text messages. The last one was from Kayla. "Please, Dad, I need you. I don't know what to do. Everyone is laughing at me. I have nothing. Please." I read it twice. Then I set the phone on the counter and walked away. Skye was at the window, looking out at the fields. "What are you going to do now?" "Check the equipment. Make sure everything's ready for planting. There's a life to live here." I meant about her. I joined her at the window, wrapped my arm around her shoulders. "I know what you meant," I said. "And the answer is the same. I'm going to live my life, take care of my land, take care of you. And if Kayla really wants to be part of it again, if she really understands what she threw away and why, then maybe someday we'll talk. But it'll be on honest ground. No more pretending, no more being ashamed of who I am." Skye leaned into me. She might not change. Then she'll learn to live with her choices. We stood there for a long time, watching the afternoon light move across the fields. Behind us, my phone kept buzzing, kept lighting up, kept displaying her desperation in real time. I didn't turn around. Somewhere up the coast, in a luxury resort with ocean views and crystal chandeliers, my daughter was learning what happens when you build your life on other people's approval, when you sacrifice authenticity for status, when you mistake wealth for worth. She'd wanted to be part of their world so badly that she'd erased herself. Now she had nothing, no husband, no inheritance, no family to fall back on, just the reality of her choices and the judgment of people who'd never really valued her in the first place. And me, I had my land, my wife, my integrity, my self-respect. For the first time in my life, I didn't come to my daughter's wedding to bless it. I came to harvest what she planted, and I was walking away with the only thing that mattered, the knowledge that I'd stood up for myself when it counted, that I'd stopped letting people treat me like I was worthless just because I worked with dirt instead of money. The phone buzzed again. I walked past it without looking, walked out to the barn where real work was waiting. Work that didn't judge me, work that didn't care about my clothes or my truck or whether I fit into polished social circles, just honest work done by honest hands on honest ground. I picked up my tools and got started.